Titans Global. Let's go. Started with a vision, two voices in the mix. Max and Link together, building something that'll stick. Every episode we drop, yeah, we're reaching new heights. Titans Global on the map, burning bright every night. From the first recording session to the fans that tune in, we've been grinding every day, yeah, we're destined to win. Titans Global, that's the name, that's the brand, we the fans, speaking truth through the microphone, messages that we send. Titans Global, that's the movement. Titans Global, feel the power. Titans Global, we keep pushing. Titans Global, this our hour. Titans Global, Max and Link. Titans stronger than you think. Titans Global, that's the way. Titans Global, every single day.
What's up, Titans fans? Maximus Titan fan here. Another episode of Titans Global Podcast. I'm glad you're with us. As always, my good buddy Link. What's up, Link? How you doing tonight?
What's up, man? I'm good. We made it. We have Titans football tomorrow. A lot to talk about tonight. Preseason games going on right now. But we're here with you. We're going to get you through all of it. So like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever you can do to help the channel. We want to reach as many people as possible. We do this for you guys, and we love it. So we got a special guest tonight, and I'll let Max introduce that. We'll get right into it.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest, this man needs no introduction. If you're a Titans fan and you don't know who Tyler Rowland is, you must be living under a rock. Locked On Titans, my favorite personally, the Tic Tac Titans channel. I love the breakdowns and stuff. That's where I really love watching. I mean, obviously, I'm in every day or two, but you know, whatever. How you doing, man? Nice to have you on the show.
Doing great, man. I can't believe that we finally have gotten to. We are on Titans Football Eve. Like, I guess, you know, a lot of people could respond and say it's preseason, it's just preseason. But I know that all three of us and probably a lot of the people watching the show, like, this is diehard fans here. We're not the type of people who don't care about the preseason. Like, the things that we are going to see in the preseason, the things we're going to talk about, the battles that'll be center stage for the Titans. Like, if you aren't into that kind of stuff, then you know, I can't relate. Like, I can't wait for these preseason games all the way to the end. Okay, maybe like the fourth quarter with all the guys who aren't going to be, you know, the TJ Sheffields of the world out there. But I'm telling you, we're going to see players that we're excited about and ready to watch the entire game. So it may just be preseason, but I'm about as fired up as you could be for a preseason game then.
Yeah, no, me too, man. I think everybody's really excited just to see what Cam Ward looks like against an offense in live action. I think we're all excited for that. I think that's why everybody was so hyped up for the videos that were coming out against the Bucks. There was a couple really good looking, especially from the young wide receivers. And Calvin Ridley, I think, stuttered somebody out of their socks too.
Yeah.
But it was nice, and like I said, I think it's just because we're all itching to see what this new offense is going to look like. We did have some struggles earlier in the week, and Callie blew his top, but it seems to have had a good effect, or at least it appears to have, because the last couple practices, it looked like it was gradually getting better and better, and then against the Bucks, they looked pretty good. I'm not going to say great, but pretty good. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Callahan, you know, we've kind of seen a trend while he's been a head coach. He tends to kind of lose his temper a little bit, and rightfully so. I mean, you know, last year we saw it with Will Levis, and I think it was deserved. He took a lot of heat for it, but I do think it was deserved frustration. This year you had the offense struggling early with a rookie quarterback. They added some extra practices. You know, we've seen him kind of blow up, and I think I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think you want a coach who's a little emotional, who's invested in this team, who wants to have success. So I don't think it's a red flag yet. We'll see how the season goes, but it's not about the struggles you have early. It's about how you adapt and how they're able to fix it. It seems like they've done a decent job with that so far through these joint practices, and we'll just see if it continues. That's my biggest takeaway.
Isn't it funny that Brian Callahan is like super mild-mannered compared to Mike Vrabel? You know, like he's real chill. He seems like a real nice guy. Well, actually, the answer to your question is, and he's like just real professional in that way. But we've seen him a few times, like snap, like he's that type of guy. Like I just can't take it anymore, and he just like you guys suck, freaks out. And they might have turned a corner off that. I want to pretend it's like a movie montage where you're training, and then they finally broke through after getting yelled at real hard, and now the offense can start to climb its way back up and be what we want it to be. But I think one word that stands out to me when we talk about Brian Callahan, because remember, it's not just the tirade to end Sunday's practice. He added that impromptu practice on Friday too, and they practiced in pads 5 out of 6 days. Like he was like, this isn't good enough. We're going to do more. So that's part of it too. For me, it's urgency. Look, they played Denver. We could talk about, they lost last year or whatever, but Denver is historically super hard to play early in the season because your body isn't in football shape yet, and then you play in the elevation. Like, it's hard for the human body to win in those circumstances against a team that's used to practicing in those environments. He knows that's going to be an insane game to win with a rookie quarterback in Denver. And then they play the Rams in week 2. I don't care if that's a home game. You got to travel back across the country from Denver after doing that to your body. Play at home against one of the top 5, 6, 8 at best teams in the NFL. Brian Callahan knows that they literally, it's not like Chicago and the Jets. Like the Titans actually had a pretty decent schedule to start things last year where they could have got off to a decent start and should have. If we put Cam Ward on last year's team, they're probably 3-1 in the first month of games after Miami, at least 2-2. You know what I mean? So
that's the hope. Yeah.
Brian Callahan knows that if they aren't playing not their best football, they're a young team. They're not going to play their best football in the first few weeks. But if they aren't ready to go, they're going to get smoked early on. And I think when you have a team full of free agent additions, and then you have a team full of young players in their first or second year, their morale rating, let's go with Madden, right? We've all played Madden. Their morale rating could drop quick and fast and a lot if they get the doors blown off of them in the first couple of weeks, because they have high hopes right now. Everybody's like, the guys in that locker room, Jeffrey Simmons is like, no, we can win a Super Bowl. Look at Jayden Daniels last year. Look how far they went. Who knows what can happen? That's the player's mentality, is every year it's our year. But, realistically, that's probably not going to be the case. But Brian Callahan knows that if they don't come out strong and at least have some good performances early and look like a professional football team, not only could the team drop real quick, but his job status could get hot really, really fast as well.
Well, and I think with such a young team, like you just said, these first 4 games are going to come a lot down to scheme. I mean, you're going to have good quarterback
coach has
play.
their team ready. Exactly,
absolutely. And anybody who watches this show knows I have been very difficult on this coaching staff. I'm still, to this day, I'm not 100% sold on this coaching staff. But I think within those
3-14
exactly,
last year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
people who aren't hot on the coaching staff right now, and I am, they got two-tone glasses on. You go 3-14 and get the first pick in the draft, you're on the hot seat the next year, no matter what.
Yep. That's why I think you have to have an early start. Yes, you have to have players perform, but you have to come in with a good game plan. Especially that first game in Denver, you're going to learn a lot in that first game, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and that really sums it up. You have to win, but it also has to do with progression of players too, like especially with Cam Ward, offensive line. If these things improve massively from last season to this season, even if we're losing games, if we're barely losing games and we look good doing it, I think that's a little bit of a different conversation than, what we were doing last year. Because last year we should have won games and we were blowing ourselves out because our quarterback was throwing to the wrong team constantly. But anyway, on to other things. Unofficial depth chart came out this week. Some interesting little nuggets on there that I thought was interesting anyway. Williams, not that surprising to me. We've been talking about him all off season, man. But the big surprises for me was, I don't know if you say his name Porsche, but the fact that he's the starting punt returner, I mean, almost seems like he's probably going to make the team. I don't know. I don't know. I just thought that was weird. But then they have
I got to tell you, the
as
special
kick
team
returner.
stuff. Right. Look, right there, a point that I made earlier in the week when I saw that, a lot of people were freaking out about it or just worrying about it or talking about it. To me, I'm like, they're not going to put the guys who they really want to start there in those spots in the preseason, because the only way that James Prochet can make the roster is if he's the starting punt returner. The only way that a guy like Jaquan Jackson can keep his roster spot maybe past this game. If he doesn't do a good job in kick return in this game, they might cut him after this game and get a new receiver in for the next week of preseason. Like, Jaquan Jackson's not going to be the starting kick returner. Prochet may be the starting punt returner, though, because he's had veteran experience doing that. And they may just say, we're not dealing with an inexperienced guy we're not sure of. We're going to have Prochet as wide receiver 7, and he's going to punt return, and that is what it is. But both those guys are fighting for their roster spot. So the reason that they're the starting returners in the different facets is just so they can get the most reps and the team can get the most. They know that Chim DK is making the roster. Why put him out there? They don't need to do that. We can do that in practice. But the guys they're not certain about making the roster are who's going to start at kick and punt returner, and that'll probably be the same next preseason game too. It's more about getting answers, in my opinion, than it is those guys are the starters going forward. All the rest of the positions, I don't think that's the case. But for special teams, they want to maximize opportunities for guys they need answers on if they're going to be on the roster or not. And that's why those two guys are the starters in my theory that I have about what they're doing.
Yeah, and you said it right there. I think Jaquan Jackson, I think that is his only shot at making the roster. And look, I want to see him succeed. I think he has a lot of raw talent. We saw him make a lot of mistakes last season. It's going to come down to can he clean those up. In that first preseason game, you're absolutely right. If he doesn't perform, or if he, I mean, the biggest thing is just don't make mistakes. That's the biggest part of it. Know when to kneel, know when to take the ball out, know when to protect the ball. That's the biggest thing for me. If you can just not make those mistakes, I think he can be a valuable part of special teams.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I just don't see him making this roster, in my opinion. I mean, there's so many good wide receivers now on the Titans, which is weird to say. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's just weird for me to say, oh, wow, we have a really deep wide receiver position. But we do. I mean, it's decent. I'm actually really excited about that.
I agree. What I don't want to happen is you end up in a situation where Tajay Spears is out there having to play special teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want my primary starting guys to have to be in those special teams roles just because that's more of a chance at injury. And, you know, we've seen over the last 5 years what that injury bug can do. So if you can have a guy like Jaquan Jackson who's kind of tucked back on the roster and he's just that special teams guy, and that if a receiver goes down, he's able to come in, that's great. I just don't want to be in a situation week 5 where Tajay Spears is out there returning kicks.
Can I say that I hope Xavier Restrepo just takes both of those guys off the map? I hope Restrepo beats out Prochet and he's good enough as a backup punt returner that he can do that. I hope he I think Restrepo is better than Jaquan Jackson right now immediately. So it's like, to me, hopefully we could talk. You know, we want to be nice. You know, ultimately, these players playing well is good for the Titans, and we all want what's best for the Titans. So if Jaquan Jackson can turn into a rosterable receiver that helps the team and is a good returner, of course we're all for it. But in a realistic sense, I don't hope that he succeeds. I hope Xavier Restrepo is better than him at everything they're asking him to do, and it moves Restrepo up more because I think ultimately, in my mind, that would be better for the Titans if I could pick out of the two to step up. But ultimately, the Titans can't have a miserable, all-time bad special teams unit. And I guess whatever it takes for us to get to that point where they're not that bad, ultimately, I'll take it.
Is Restrepo the biggest question mark right now for you guys? Like, is that the one roster spot where you're like, because I'm a huge fan. I want to see him make this roster. When it comes down to who gets a roster spot and who doesn't, is Restrepo kind of at the top of that list? Who's kind of balancing right on that line?
I think it's him and Prochet.
Yeah,
you know, like, sure. and the question really is, are they keeping 7? Because listen to any of the beats. Any of the beats just are like, Bryce Oliver's making the team. Because of the special team stuff. He's a gunner. He's a coverage guy. He is going to be a core special teams player on every single special teams unit. So he's going to make it. And he's had some moments as a backup wide receiver. I think you could do worse as a wide receiver 5, 6. Now, I hope he's not wide receiver 4. I hope DK and Io Manor play over him. And I mean, even Van Jefferson, like realistically, I hope that he's not wide receiver 6. I hope that's Restrepo, and Bryce Oliver's just wide receiver 7, add depth and play on all the special teams units. But realistically, he's at least wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, and he's a top 4 special teams player on the team. So I think 6 guys are locked in at wide receiver at this point, barring or without any injuries, of course, knock on wood, hopefully not happening. But it's about whether they're going to keep 7. And then is that Prochet, is that Restrepo? And that's got to be worked out on special teams. But I think those are the 2 big questions: is do they keep 7? And then is it Prochet or Restrepo? That's what it is right now. And everybody else, maybe Matt Landers. Matt Landers got some hype in that joint practice, the 6'3" guy out of Arkansas, Woo Pig. Maybe the Titans hit on an undrafted Arkansas wide receiver that's big and fast, and that's like the opposite karma they need to rid themselves of the Treylon Burks energy.
I'm kind of at the point. I mean, I didn't even want to bring this up this show, but I'm kind of at the point where I'm glad Treylon Burks. Again, I don't wish harm or injury to anyone, but
on him as a dude, yeah,
absolutely. That took a huge question mark away this season, where other guys can step up and fill that void. Yeah. So I don't wish injury on him, but I'm kind of glad that question was answered early, and we're not sitting here in week 5 wondering where Treylon Burks is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean this to like them as people, but just proverbial, the trash took itself out. Like Will Levis was a hanger-on, and it was weird for Will Levis to be around. It's Cam Ward's team. You're over. Like, that's weird, and people try to say, oh, he'll compete through it. But no, that's weird. We're human beings, man. That stuff's weird. You can't live in the same house with your ex when she moved on. That's weird. So, but Will Levis, the problem kind of removed itself. The cancer killed itself. And then Treylon Burks, he doesn't deserve a roster spot. We'd rather have these other guys. I'd rather have Bryce Oliver and Restrepo than Burks on this roster. And it kind of took care of itself. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to see more of Femi. Lorenzo Carter doesn't do anything. He had 0 sacks last year. Like, he's just a placeholder until Femi's ready. Well, Femi's ready now to be an early down run stuffer, and Lorenzo Carter just kind of, like, all the little problems just kind of fixed themselves in a way, naturally, the way that it worked out. So that's kind of cool for the Titans and for our sake and the guys we want to actually see play.
For sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Joint practices. We had one joint practice. It wasn't 100% what I wanted to see, but man, I tell you what, I was feeling so good after that yesterday. I literally looked at my wife last night and said, if we play in the game like we did in the joint practice session, we are going to beat the out of the Buccaneers, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, I don't know. You guys surely have seen some of the videos, I know it's just one-on-ones or whatever, but the one with Ayomanor where he jukes the kid almost to sitting down on the field with a double move. It was just, oh man, I don't know. I get all emotional and verklempt thinking about, these young wide receivers that have skill and talent.
Well, and this is what you should be seeing. I mean, this is what I would expect, because you have young rookies that you brought in that you want to make an early impact, and they're showing out against the Bucks, who don't have as many questions as the Titans maybe have. I think we're going to see a lot more Titans starters play in this game than we're going to see Bucks starters. I think we're going to see a lot more quality minutes from guys that are playing in the regular season. So that's what should be happening. So yes, I'm happy about it. I think that it was a fairly successful joint practice from the Titans, but I didn't expect any different. If it had been the other way around and we're sitting here saying our rookie receivers are struggling, Cam Ward's really struggling reading the defense, then I think you have a bigger problem. Right now, I feel like you're kind of right where you expect and want to be at this point. Things
are real. That's what I was most excited about with joint practices. There are some things that we're excited about with this team that are real. Ayomanor did impress. DK did impress. Xavier Restrepo, even on the backup teams, was able to impress. The offensive line and this is coming, a lot of this stuff is coming from Tampa Bay reporters like the Pewter Report or whatever. They did an excellent job. I don't mean to be rude, but the coverage that the Tampa Bay people were getting and like just such a great job. I know the Titans, it's not Titans beat reporters' fault, the Titans media mafia in the background. They don't want them to report too much. I get it, secrecy, okay? But I'm just saying, like, you know, Femi was getting pressure in the backfield around Baker Mayfield a couple of times, and the run game was like the Titans had some really good runs during the run periods and stuff like that. So there are some things where it's like, okay, this might be real, and that's going to make the team much better, but much more fun to watch this year as well, which is what I think most realistic Titans fans aren't like, they need to make the playoffs. Like, we would all love that, but I think realistic folks aren't like, this is a playoff team. Like, no, I don't know. Like, not saying they can't, but I don't think it's like the default they're going to make the playoffs. Right. It's not the favorite by any means. So, to me, if they can be more entertaining and more competitive in some areas, if they win 6 games this year and just play more competitive football, I think if the Titans are like the Panthers from last year, that would be awesome. And I think playing a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pretty evenly in a joint practice, I think that's a good sign. And I'm not ashamed to be excited about that.
Yeah, and you said something there, and I think you actually had a post about it. Do you think the run game is getting slept on a little bit? I mean, because Cam Ward's going to come in, he's going to take a lot of pressure off of that run game because you've got to respect the way that he moves around in the pocket and makes plays. You have to respect that. So when you get those, you know, when you set up the play actions and he hits a couple passes and now all of a sudden you're having to drop back a little bit more, I think the run game can actually be a dagger. I mean, I think you've got a good 1-2 punch right now. I won't be surprised if the run game finds a lot more success this season than the pass game does, just because of the simple fact that that's what you need to have success early.
Yeah, I think that's going to be critical for Cam Ward. Talk about Cam Ward taking pressure off the run game. I think it's going to be a lot of the other way around, too. They need the run game. Now, I think Cam Ward's ability to throw quick passes at different angles and get the ball out of his hands quick, that wasn't what Will Levis wants to stare it down and see it and then use his talented arm to drive it in. Cam Ward's more of a natural, instinctive player who can kind of find those cracks and those crannies to get the ball to guys and sliver into yards, and that can be an extension of the run game. You know, they don't need the run game as much because you can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on first down with a quick screen, something like that. But with the run game, I think it's not just that the offensive line is more talented, but I think the way Bill Callahan wanted to do things, having multiple people in the room who know his techniques, know how he wants to execute things, I think that second year leap in terms of not just, hey, we got better as players individually, our ratings went up, but the improvement of, now I fully understand the coaching. I get a full off season where I know the why of we're doing these certain techniques. I think that's going to take cerebral players like J.C. Latham and Peter Skoronski especially to a whole new level. So I think it's second year in the system and the talent development is going to make the Titans. I think the Titans will have like a top 12, top 10 explosive run game this year.
Wow. Okay.
That'll be one of the best.
Well, one of the things
team,
I'm looking forward to with the the running backs is the passing game, the checkdowns. You know, they did that a lot in the practice, the 2-minute drill or whatever that they did. Yeah, he is super quick, man, and he will stunt you out of your shoes. And Pollard is no joke, man. I'll be honest, you know, like when you used to go to the practices and you see like Derrick Henry or you see like Travondre Sweat or something like those are huge guys. You expect them to do amazing things, but Pollard isn't a huge guy. I mean, he's he's big, don't get me wrong. He's not small, but I mean, compared to some of these other dudes, he's not like Gunnar Helm. When I met him, I was like, holy you're freaking huge, dude. Like Gunnar Helm is like super freaking huge. He's ridiculous, and he's wide. His shoulders are freaking broad, man. Dude is for real huge, man. Like when I saw him, I was like, holy crap. I couldn't believe it was the same dude I've been watching on TV. They look so different on TV than they do in person.
Tight end one.
Yeah, over Chig.
Good God.
I just think he's more versatile than Chig. Yeah. You know? So eventually he's going to play more snaps, even if Chig is a bigger weapon in the offense. Helm's going to play the most snaps. I believe it.
Yeah, he's bigger. He's stronger. He blocks better. He's got longer arms. I think his
Better
catch
in
radius is
contested
better.
situation. Oh, way better. Way better. That's not even a part. Chig isn't.
And I'm interested
That's not even
to
a
see
part
if
of his game, you know?
Yeah, and the consistency. That's the big thing for me that kills Chig, is he's not a consistent performer.
Right.
I want to see consistency. If you can get me, you don't have to be great, just 40, 50 yards a game, average game, 6, 7 touchdowns in a season. I'm happy with that for tight end numbers. I don't need Delaney Walker on my team, but I do need an Aaron Kinney.
So question on that. So we talked about, how many receivers the Titans keep. I think a lot of people were I was a little bit surprised last year at how many tight ends remained on the roster. Has Wiley, do you think Wiley has kind of worked his way out? Do you think this is a 3 tight end, a 4 tight end? I mean, who's in the mix right now for you?
I think it's going to come down to Odukoye or Wiley. I think David Martin Robinson's going to make the team. I think that he's a guy. He's kind of like a mixture of Helm and Chig, where he's a little bit thicker than Chig and he can hit a little bit better and run through a tackle a little bit more, but he still got some quickness and some wiggle to him where Wiley doesn't. And I think Odukoye is kind of a bigger, stronger inline blocker type. I just don't think he's refined enough as a pass catcher. But if the Titans feel like, hey, if we're going to keep a 4th tight end, they need to be a big, heavy blocker, and it's between Wiley and Odukoye, it might go to Odukoye. But I feel pretty solid that we're going to see Chig and Helm and David Martin Robinson. I don't know if they're going to keep a 4th tight end, especially like we're talking about 7 wide receivers.
Exactly.
And now they added Quandre Diggs at safety. Are they going to keep 5 safeties now? Because Teron Davenport made this point, and it's a great point, excellent point. He said, Quandre Diggs is signed, and now you got Woods and Hooker and Winston and Diggs, who are going to make the team. They wouldn't sign Diggs if he wasn't going to make the team. But is Quandre Diggs, as safety 4, going to be the personal protector on punt? Is he going to be a core member of the special teams unit, which your safety 4 usually is a core member of your special teams unit? Kevin Winston, they're already sitting him out of a week of practice because they don't want to wear him down after the ACL tear. Well, they certainly aren't going to have him be the personal protector on punt and be a core member of the special teams unit if they're already worried about wearing him down in practice. So that means if Quandre Diggs ain't going to do that as a 10-year veteran, and Winston isn't going to do that as someone who's key to the actual defense, and they're not going to overwork him, that means they're going to keep a 5th safety, right? And it's going to be Mike Brown, because Mike Brown does that. Mike Brown is the personal protector on punt and a core member of the special teams unit. So now they're keeping 5 safeties. How does that affect the cornerback room? Are they only keeping 5 corners? You know what I mean? Or are they only going to keep 4 inside linebackers, 5 interior defensive? Where do you make the room to keep 4 tight ends? Where do you do that? You got to take from somewhere else. It creates a math problem. So I don't think there's any way they're keeping all 5 again. And I'm not even certain that they keep 4. They might just go with DMR, Chig, and Helm. So that is one of the most, I feel least confident in my certainty on where they finally end on the roster with tight ends than I do some other positions that may seem like they're more complicated.
Agreed 100%. Yep. And hey, you mentioned bad knees and time off. Where are you at with Snead? What is? Do you have any inside information on this? Are we gonna see? I'm kidding, but
I don't even think his own doctors know what's going on with him. He'd say it's just like unbelievable. I mean, Brian Callahan said recently that him and Cushenberry might start to ramp up a little bit. Maybe he emphasized maybe this week coming up they might start to do a little bit more with hopes of maybe playing in the last preseason game or at least getting into practice before the year. But I'm sorry, you can't bank on that.
Yeah, I've been waiting for things to ramp up since last season with Snead,
right.
And that's my biggest issue. And honestly, if Snead isn't available and we're in a world where he isn't a significant starter on this team, that almost again becomes my biggest worry on this defense is what does the depth look like at that cornerback position behind Snead if he's not able to go?
Yeah, Darrell Baker Jr. could probably fill in okay, but
right, exactly.
After that, we're looking at Gabe Judy Lawley, and I just don't know if he's quite as good as we all hope that he's gonna be. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a dangerous spot for the Titans there for sure. And I think that would remember they're still number one in the waiver claim. So they're going to churn the back end of this roster as people get cut throughout the preseasons and stuff like that. And then when roster cut down happens around the NFL, I bet the Titans claim a bunch of different people. And all the guys we've been talking about at the back end of the roster aren't even like options, and they get guys from other teams at those spots, like at cornerback or at linebacker, or at edge, interior defensive line, tight end. Like you just never know. You know, running back actually would be one of those spots that I would say they might just claim somebody off somebody else's team because they don't like the options that we've been discussing.
That's where I think we see some of these guys who have hung around for all these years, the Mason Kinseys, the Julius Chestnuts. I think you start to see a lot of those guys finally start to turn over.
Yes,
all
correct.
off. Yep.
Yeah,
I tell you another. You were talking about Okoye. That is a massive dude, and another guy that looks like he has tree trunks for legs. Have you seen Cal Mullings in person?
It's Superman for a reason.
Yeah, dude is thick, bro. Like I would be surprised if they don't try to use him like a heavy bowling ball type back, just run through, short yardage, end zone type stuff. So the big question, how long does Cam Ward need to play? And for me, it's more about what he looks like. If they come out in the very first series, it looks like they're having their way with the offense. He's throwing passes, has great numbers, throws a touchdown on the first series. I'm not going to be super upset if they pull him out. I know that's not really a popular opinion because he does need to get some work. And I agree with the fact that he does need to get some work. But if he looks good enough in the first series, I won't be, or just the first two series, I won't be upset if they pull him after that. But if he looks shaky at all in the first or second series, they need to play him until he either doesn't look shaky or, the first half is over.
Listen, if they go down and they score two touchdowns,
it's all on how Cam Ward and the offense play.
Yeah, I mean, if they go 2 for 2 on offense, well, the reality is I want him to play the first quarter, but if he goes on 2 touchdown drives in the first 2 series, or he goes and gets 10 points, that probably did take the first quarter, because there's usually only 15 minutes in a quarter. That's 3.5 drives total for all the teams. The Titans will likely only get the ball twice in the first quarter. So at that point, what are we talking about? But if they come out and they go 3 and out twice, they probably will get the ball a third time in the first quarter, and he needs to be out there. You're right. It is performance based. We can't put it at any time thing, but also I don't, Paul Kaharski reported it's 2 series max. And I just don't like coming into the game saying it's 2 series at max, nothing more, because if those 2 series are absolute garbage, then he needs to go out there for a third and maybe a fourth one until it doesn't look like garbage to get some confidence and get things going. So I disagree if that report's true. I disagree with the philosophy going in, but that doesn't mean that I disagree with 2 series being the right answer if it turns out to be the right answer.
Yeah. Well, you saw that tonight. I mean, anybody who's watched these preseason games, look at Shedeur Sanders. He comes out, he goes 3 and out. Everybody saying, welcome to the NFL. He's struggling. Then he comes, 2 drives in a row, 2 touchdowns. So let them work through that first drive, that first series, and let them have the opportunity to bounce back. So I'm not, like you said, situations are situational. However, I would expect through this full preseason, I would expect at least 4 to 5 quarters worth of play out of Cam Ward, somewhere around that range, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I could be okay with that, because you want to see him play a lot in the second game and then kind of back him off a little. Well, I don't know. It depends on how he plays.
It depends how the games go.
That's really where I stand. Yeah, that's exactly how I stand. If he kills it in the first 2 games, I don't even care if he plays in the third game. I really don't. I just want to see manageable, operative offense. If I can see that, I'm a happy dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, be a professional.
Yeah, and you're going to see mistakes, and I'm okay with that because that's what the preseason's for. Make your mistakes, work through it, see what's going on because it is going to take an adjustment. It is going to take an adjustment. This isn't Miami. This isn't college. He's got to be able to read these defenses. And, hey, the Bucks, they're not going to show their hand at everything, but they're going to throw some things in to confuse him, and that's absolutely what you want as a Titans fan.
Well, they got to run their stuff.
Yeah,
Everybody's like, it's
sure.
vanilla in the preseason, but the Buccaneers, they need to know if their depth guys can run their defense. So they're not going to bring out all their exotic blitzes and everything, but they're still going to run like what their staple blitzes are so they can see how those guys execute those things. For me, you know what I really want? I want any mistakes that happen from the offense to be during the play. If they come out there and they have a couple false starts, a holding penalty, procedural stuff like illegal motion, shifts, illegal formation, stuff like that, I'm going to be pissed. And that is something that I think where a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is like, well, we kind of have to see how it's going before we can make what the grading scale should be. I think the grading scale is very clear with this. Operational stuff from the offense, the penalties, getting lined up, not delay a game, false start, holding, all that stuff that just murdered them last year that they've been talking about throughout camp that they haven't got better at in camp. They've had a lot of penalties, and we heard that practice they had where they had the red zone period, and they got back-to-back penalties that pushed them back 15 yards, and now it's 4th and 4. It's like, I don't want to see any of that stuff. Play clean, and you're going to make mistakes, but make them I would rather Cam Ward throw an interception trying to force a ball into a window than have the Titans have 3 pre-snap penalties. Because then it's like, that's unprofessional bullcrap. Throwing interceptions happens. Like, make your mistakes on the field when it matters during the plays, not before the play ever takes off. That's my one ironclad, no questions. I won't hear any debate. They need to operate and check that box or I'm going to be pissed.
Absolutely.
All right, let me ask you one more question real quick. Who are you most excited to see in this game? Obviously Cam, but I mean, give me one on offense, one on defense. Who are you most excited to see?
Number one on offense for me is Alec Iomanor. I've been excited about him the entire time. Chim DK, I think, is going to be underrated in terms of his impact, and we all like Restrepo. Love Gunnar Helm as well, but Io Manor to me, and maybe we're all wrong about this, but to me, Io Manor has the most superstar potential of any of these 4 rookie weapons, and for his size and his speed, and he's just an exciting player to watch and follow, so I want to see Io Manor take a step forward. I think he has the best chance of fundamentally changing the Titans' ceiling this year if he can really hit, and then on defense, it's definitely Femi. I want to see Femi, because I just want to watch tape of how he does his pass rush moves and how far along he is with that stuff. And there are some things that Femi's going to be good at or should be good at right out of the gate. Flying off the line of scrimmage, being physical, strong, violent, being early down edge setter and just come off the ball with speed and power and violence and just use your body and be a bull, man. Just knock into people. Use what you got. You can develop stuff along the line, but what he has right now is enough to be an exciting player. So I want to see Femi with some violence and some aggression.
Yeah, well, you kind of took my 2, but that's cool, man. I'm also interested
because they're the best
in
too.
Draymond.
They're the best too.
Yeah.
We know it. We all know the truth. They're the best.
Agreed.
Now we could talk. Gunnar Helm would be great. I think DK, his speed, I could see DK playing more than Tyler Lockett in the slot by a month into the season, just because his speed is something that the offense needs. We could. Go everyone's excited about James Williams, but Cedric Gray's still on the team.
Yeah.
He's still going into year 2. I'm excited to see, and Cedric Gray's probably going to play a lot more than James Williams if James Williams is truly the starter. And then, the returners on special teams, watch the gunners, watch the people making tackles on special teams. Those are the guys who are really making the most impact on their status on the team right now. So there's so much to watch, but we all know that Io Manor on offense and Femi on defense is where we're most excited to be, other than Cam, of course, who takes all the cake on his own.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the show a little bit short. Anybody have any final thoughts or anything like that?
Yeah, no, for me, I'm excited. Like you said, for if I had the players to watch, I'm looking. Obviously, Femi's important, Cam's important, Manor's important, but I want to see these kind of borderline roster guys. I want to see if Restrepo can step up and prove that he has a spot on this roster. Jaquan Jackson is going to be a big one for me in that kick return game. Can he step up and earn a spot on this roster? So those guys that are kind of borderline, even Josh Wiley. I mean, those guys that are borderline. Can they make an impact early? Can they show, hey, I'm still around, I'm NFL ready, I'm going to be here regular season? So it's just little stuff like that. And then, like you said, can you clean things up? Can you get the pre-snap stuff down? I feel like Bill Callahan has finally got the guys he wants on this offensive line. Like you said earlier, this has to be a big jump for this coaching staff, because this was not the offensive line we expected going into last year. Can you clean some of these things up? Because honestly, you should have the second best offensive line in this division, in my opinion. You should end this season with the second best offensive line at worst.
At worst.
Yeah, at worst.
We don't know what's going to happen with those two new spots on the Colts with right guard and center. We don't know whether that's going to work out. So let's just, let's not say anything too crazy, but we'll all just kind of look at each other with those eyes like, at worst,
Yeah, I mean, if you look back the last 2 years and said that, we'd be coming into this season with one of the best offensive lines, and then you go back 4 or 5 seasons and say, hey, we don't know, we almost have too many receivers that could make this team, like, I wouldn't believe you. I mean, they struggled for so long at these spots, and you finally cleaned some of that up. So can Callahan, can this coaching staff actually bring development to this team? That's going to be the biggest thing for me. I don't want to be sitting here week 7 questioning, are these rookies not going to work out long-term? I need to see development. I need to see at least a little bit of early success. And that doesn't mean winning games. I don't have to be 6-0 or 7-1. I just want to see good football. I want to see competitive football, and we can lock down some of these roster spots for the next 3 to 4 years.
Sounds good, man. Tyler, you got any final thoughts, brother?
I'm just excited it's back, man. Football's back, and we have all these thoughts of what could be, what could happen, what we hope happens, what we hope doesn't happen, all that different stuff. And, that's the best part about sports, about all these things that we love to talk about, is we get to see it happen. We get answers with sports. We truly get our answers. So I'm excited to get some tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. And, thank you for coming on the show again. I think it's your 3rd time on the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you guys don't watch him, man, you got to go check it. If nothing else, check out the Tic Tac Titans channel. Even if, you have your Titans people that you watch or whatever. I don't know how you do that. But anyway, my point is, check that channel out if you haven't seen it, because it is really great. Some really great breakdowns on plays and stuff like that. Tyler, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. Everybody else, thanks for hanging out with us through this rough stream. But until next time, tighten up.
Tighten up.
Peace out.